So I try to help people understand that in my view, this is my view, I believe that being fit and healthy is part of your job, especially if you have a big job. And that means if you're fit and healthy, you're going to show up better for your clients. You're going to show up better for your colleagues. You're going to show up better for your family. You're going to show up better for yourself. And you're really going to have better cognitive function, have better energy, and it changes the whole trajectory of your life.
We are about to launch
Truth Not Trends.
What's up, everybody? Truth Not Trends.
What is going on, party people?
Party people in the house. We are back here in the TNT Strength Studio, Oakland, California, live and in person.
That is right. This is the podcast where we help you maximize your strength as safely
and efficiently
as possible. My name is Jesse Schmidt, and I've been a strength coach for 1,926 days.
Oh my God, it's creeping up, 2,000.
The gray hairs are starting to creep in.
My name is Liam Bauer. I have been a strength coach for 34 years. I'm about 25 days away from 35 years. Woo-wee.
Oh yeah, but he's still getting mistaken for being in his 30s or 40s.
There we go. We can't beat that.
That's right. Results don't lie, people. Hey, today we have a fantastic interview with none other than Kristen Rowell, the CEO and founder of Energetically Efficient. Kristen is a functional nutrition therapy practitioner, superstar, high-intensity training advocate, and also low-carb advocate. And she is passionate about helping her clients achieve optimal health.
And she's a mesomorphic bodybuilder superhero.
She is marathon runner. She does it all, man. She, believe it or not, before she was doing what she's doing now, she was a highly successful law firm partner. She was a litigation attorney just crushing it.
So don't mess with her.
Do not mess with her because she will come after you. You will find yourself deep in a lawsuit. No, Kristen is super fun, super knowledgeable. I had the pleasure of meeting her at the Resistance Exercise Conference in May of 2021. And we hit it off talking supplements, and we knew we had to have her back on the TNT Strength Podcast. So we're going to bring this interview to you. But before we do, we got to tell you about the Harambe system.
Harambe system. Yes, you know it. You love it. You want one. I want it. I love it. I want more of it. What is it? It's the Harambe system built by our friend Khalid Borbeya, a.k.a. Boo Robbie. Yes, and Khalid, if you want to, he was a guest on our podcast on episode 105. So I highly recommend you go check that out and find out what an awesome guy he is. The Harambe system is a home band-based resistance training system built in the USA. It's made out of stainless steel, high weight and density molecular plastic. You can generate force up to 1,000 pounds. Basically, you can create any barbell or dumbbell exercise you could possibly imagine using the Harambe system, but you can stick it right under your bed. You can throw it on your back. It's portable. It's incredible. You got to get one. If you're training at home, get yourself a Harambe system. Get as strong as possible, as safely and efficiently as possible.
Now, we also probably should tell you about our other podcast partner, Low Cal Foods Cali.
That's right.
So if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you're a busy person. You've got things to do. And you know what? You might not always have time to cook for yourself, even if you have the best of intentions.
You need to feed your inner athlete.
Feed your inner athlete. That's their slogan, right? When your schedule gets packed to the gills, don't let your healthy eating habits fall by the wayside. Low-Cal is going to cook your meals for you. They can customize them to any macro breakdown.
That's right. So put down that mac and cheese craft box.
They have preset meals you can select, or you can pick your own. Make them up. They'll do whatever you want for you. They're going to send you the pre-cooked food. All you have to do is reheat it in the microwave. So super convenient.
Fresh, delicious,
healthy, high-protein meals. We love them. They're delicious. We eat them every week. So, and make sure you use the discount code TNT Strength 5 to get 5% off your orders.
And that reminds me, there's a TNT discount for Harambe System, just use the code TNT to get 15% off anything in the Harambe System store.
There you go. There's your Easter egg for listening to the full intro, people, and not skipping through it.
That's right. Ha!
So, without further ado, we hope you enjoy this fantastic interview with Kristen Rowell. Kristen, nice to virtually re-meet you. This is my business partner and associate, Liam Bauer.
Hi, Liam.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you? Good to see you, Jesse.
I think
Good to see you too.
Were you at the rec in Vegas?
I was, yes. I spoke at Rec in Vegas.
Yeah. I remember seeing you there.
Yes, I spoke there and then again in May.
So, counselor, thank you so much for joining us today on the TNT Strength Podcast. We are so glad to have you. I really enjoyed meeting you. We sat next to each other at a rec conference. That's Resistance Exercise Conference for people who don't know, back in May 2022. And I got to witness your presentation on creatine, which was very cool. So we'll get into that, but before we do, would you mind, since this is your first time joining us as a guest on the TNT Strength Podcast, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, please?
I'd be happy to. So my name is Kristen Rowell. I'm the CEO and founder of Energetically Efficient, and I am a functional nutritional therapy practitioner. I also happen to be a lawyer. So I started this business in 2019 after having lawyered. I had a successful business litigation practice for almost 17 years and chose to leave that in the summer of 2019, start this business providing nutritional therapy to people who I describe as the old me. So I work with a lot of lawyers, a lot of executives, a lot of doctors, dentists, mortgage brokers, real estate agents, all sorts of different people from walks of life, but really people who desire to put their health and wellness as a priority, but have sort of let it fall by the wayside and have let it not be a priority of theirs. And so I help them, for lack of a better term, get out of their own way. And I did this because of the evolution of my own journey. I was one of the lawyers who always prioritized health and fitness. So during the time that I was lawyering, I ran over 20 marathons. I became a natural professional bodybuilder. So I always had this interest in wellness or health as something outside of the practice of law. It was kind of my outlet. I ran my first marathon, my first semester of law school, as a way to relieve stress so that I wouldn't be so stressed out all the time. So I knew that prioritizing both what I put in my body and how I spend my time in terms of my activities was something that was going to make me more successful, not less. And so I try to help people understand that in my view, this is my view, I believe that being fit and healthy is part of your job, especially if you have a big job. And that means if you're fit and healthy, you're going to show up better for your clients. You're going to show up better for your colleagues. You're going to show up better for your family. You're going to show up better for yourself. And you're really going to have better cognitive function, have better energy, and it changes the whole trajectory of your life. So now I help people prioritize themselves again when they've sort of gotten off track and just love what I do. I run my business from home. I teach online courses. I do one-on-one coaching. So I'm having a blast. I feel really lucky.
Really awesome. We know you're in the Minneapolis area, and it's a really great complement to strength training, which is, one of the major recommendations we know you make for your clients. And I know you've sort of been intertwined with Discover Strength, not as an employee officially, but you're singing their praises. How did you first become involved with high intensity training and Discover Strength? And I'm also curious about how that sort of plays into your, I don't know what your current workout stuff is as far as running wise, because you've run 25 marathons, right? Maybe more at this point.
Yep, 25. So I was introduced to Discover Strength way back at the beginning. I was one of these people who started strength training at 14 years old. So I would strength train in the middle school, at high school, and I'm a mesomorph. So which means, of course, I put on muscle very quickly. So I was naturally good at it when I started. So it was interesting to me. I think kids really like to do things that they're good at and where they see results. So I knew from a very early age that I was strong. And then I'd say in college, I sort of didn't prioritize strength training the same and was focused more on other cardio activities because that was all the buzz at the time, of course. And then when I graduated from college and moved back to Minnesota to go to law school, I was really getting into my running career. And then I was actually strength training again pretty regularly. So what happened was, as I was in law school and I could spend an hour running and then go and have a leg day and separately an arm day and separately a back day, I had all this other time. When I started practicing law, I realized really quickly that wasn't going to happen anymore. No, gone were the days of 2 hours in the gym because I just couldn't do it with my busy practice. So I had to figure out how to get more efficient with my exercise and marry that kind of awareness on my part with, I was on a run with a friend one day who said, oh my gosh, I got to tell you about this new gym. I met this guy, Luke Carlson, and he just opened this gym called Discover Strength. I think it's right up your alley. I think you would love it. And so that nudge from her while we were running, and she sold me on it because she said, I think you'll love it because it's a quick workout, but it's also very effective. And at the time, Luke was really targeting a lot of the running community in the Twin Cities. So he had been training Team Minnesota runners. He had Kerry Tollefson. He had a bunch of big names from our area in running. And I desired to even improve in my running at that time. So I thought, okay, I'll go in and I'll try one workout. And I went for my first workout at Discover Strength. It was 5:30 in the morning. Pretty sure it was Luke that trained me my very first time. And I remember feeling like, this is the best 30 minutes I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah.
I had never pushed myself that hard. I had never been challenged that hard. I had never had that sort of, I'm certain that it was serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, all the amazing feel-good neurotransmitters that were happening in addition to the hormone changes. And I fell in love with it. And I started going once a week at that time. That was in November of 2007. I think opened the gym in 2006. And then by the next summer, I felt like once a week just wasn't enough for me. I felt like I was sort of plateauing. So I started going twice a week, several months in. And I've been going twice a week ever since. So here we are in 2022, and I've been doing Discover Strength twice a week since 2008. So people say to me, well, okay, but when you became a natural professional bodybuilder, like you had to have done something else. You didn't just work out at Discover Strength. And I said,
right.
Oh no, that's what I did. I worked out twice a week for 30 minutes. I give it my all when I'm there. And that is a model that works. And so that's how I became a professional bodybuilder. And that's really how my relationship with Discover Strength started.
Now you are, that's great. Yeah. It's 15 years of DS. So we know you're super strong.
Yeah.
We've seen your guns in the bodybuilding pictures. Yeah. You're not messing around.
Yeah.
I know you're doing the rounds as a speaker these days at various different conferences. You just went to KetoCon, and we've had a couple, prominent low carb doctors on our podcast, including Dr. Ken Berry and Dr. Sean Baker.
They're both good friends of mine. That's so cool.
Yeah. I know you probably bump into Fred Hahn at some of these conferences too, because I know he's been I think he went and spoke on Dr. Ken Berry's low carb cruise or keto cruise. I don't know what it was called.
Yeah, there was a keto cruise that I was supposed to go on, and then it was canceled because of COVID.
Oh, okay.
But I think there's been another one since then that I didn't go on. But yeah. I haven't met Fred. I know of his name, but I haven't met him.
He's a very cool guy. He's been on with us as a guest as well, and well worth talking to. He's a trainer to the stars. Like he's trained.
Yeah.
He's out in Manhattan, and he's trained Tony Robbins and a bunch of other celebs. So he has some pretty interesting stories.
Yeah, a couple of my guy friends in the keto space. It's Dr. Ryan Lowry and Dr. Jacob Wilson. They own a facility in Tampa where they train Tony, and they go on some of his different conferences that he has all over the country or all over the world. Uh-huh. And they test him because they're using him in terms of just testing him through the different things that they offer at their facility. But I remember them describing in one talk, I'm pretty sure this is the statistic that's right. They said that in one of Tony's all-day conferences, he burns the same amount of calories that you would if you played 7 professional hockey games back to back. It's insane.
He's just running around the stage all day long.
It's insane. It's insane. Yes, and they've got him wired up to all this stuff because we're testing him all the time. So it's really interesting, just the amount of energy output that guy has.
He's a big guy too. So
yeah.
Yes. Very interesting.
So what I was coming to is I'm curious, because you being a high intensity training advocate, and by the way, right, like our tagline on this podcast is we help people maximize their strength as safely and efficiently as possible.
Yeah.
Right.
Great.
And so what I see happening a lot in the quote unquote low carb social media sphere, especially with medical doctors, is they are getting very into strength training. And even if they're not huge into doing it themselves, like Dr. Ken Berry, when we interviewed him, he said, he does not like strength training, but he still advocates it. And so I'm curious because I think that still for advocates of strength training, like medical doctors, they still might look at like HIIT training, high intensity training, or like, 30 minutes, one set to failure, however you want to categorize this sort of general style of training. They look at it almost as like a fringe thing, and they might still be skeptical the same way like, the general population is, or like some of your running friends, or like a lot of people are skeptical about, like that can't be enough, So how are your interactions with people like that as you travel around to these conferences?
So I would say that what you just represented is true for some people, for sure. But I have observed, and I certainly know a lot of people that are very like-minded to me, that not only prioritize strength training in their own life and come from even a Western medicine background, but that are also talking about it with their patients in clinic and really getting the word out about how important it is. So it's interesting, as I really reflect on some of these people that I can name for you, they're friends of mine, it's a lot more women than it is men, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So Dr. Jamie Seaman is a good friend of mine. I'm speaking at her conference at Hard to Kill Summit in Omaha later this month. And she's someone who was insulin resistant, PCOS, still managed to have 3 babies, and has completely overhauled her metabolic health and was on the Titan Games with The Rock because she's gotten so fit and strong because she's really, really focused on building muscle. So she's an OBGYN who talks about it in her practice all the time. Or my friend, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, who has literally coined and registered the trademark muscle-centric medicine.
Yeah.
Because she's really helping people understand that this is a metabolic active organ that we really need to be using and really enhancing. So there's a lot of women in this space that are doing it. But what I always say, and this is probably going to sound harsh, but I mean this, is I really ask people to look at who is the person that you're getting advice from, and do you actually admire, respect, or look up to them physically? Are they practicing what they preach? It's not that everyone has to be a bodybuilder for you to trust them about strength training. I don't think that's not my point. But if someone is doling out advice about strength training, I would hope that they're also living it and practicing it. Because there are definitely doctors in this space who are prioritizing that. Dr. Sean Baker, who you spoke with, is one of them. And then I would mention the other 2 women that I talked about.
Yeah, can you name the first doctor that you mentioned?
Yes, Dr. Jamie Seaman. It's JAIME SEEMAN. And on social media, she goes by Dr. Fit and Fabulous. And so she's fantastic. She's a good friend of mine. And, she's got a few of us powerhouse women that are going to be speaking at this conference in August. But the thing that I think I spend a lot of my time doing with clients, I always say I am reprogramming them or unprogramming them from all of the noise that society has programmed them with over the last however many decades. And for many of my clients, it's since the day they were born. And we have been programmed in this society largely by big food and big pharma. And people are very unaware until they start to open up to this language that I'm using. They're very unaware that they're programmed. They don't realize that their messaging or their belief they have that we need to eat all these small meals a day, and we need to, we have to have breakfast when we wake up, and mid-morning snack and afternoon snack and have a bedtime snack. All of that was just programming that we were all inputted with to sell us something to make other people make money. None of that has ever had anything to do with nutrition science. None of it has ever had anything to do with how our body works. It's all been about how do we get all of this processed packaged food in people's bodies, get them addicted to it so we can make more money. The food pyramid that we grew up with was largely the result of lobbying on the steps of Washington by a bunch of different interest groups, including farmers and big food. There's nothing about nutrition science that says 6 to 11 servings of grains is good for you each day. That's garbage advice. The notion that whole grains are somehow different than other grains, also garbage made up advice. None of that is a reality. And so I spend a lot of time helping people understand everything they thought they knew about nutrition and exercise. Cardio is king. You have to do an hour of cardio this many times a week. Everything we thought we knew is literally all someone else's program that they've fed you with. You've been plugged into a matrix and you bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. And now I'm just helping you wake up and understand the power of yourself and how you can actually understand how your body really works. I spend a lot of time educating people about how their body works, and one of the most important components of it is understanding that your muscle tissue on your body sets your resting metabolic rate. And that is the most significant component of your metabolism. So we have 4 parts to our metabolism. The first part is your resting metabolic rate. And again, that is a direct reflection of how much muscle do you have on your body. And that makes up 60 to 70% of your metabolism. The second most important part of your metabolism, which makes up 15 to 20% of your metabolism, is NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It's everything that you do in the day for movement, other than your structured exercise. It's me moving my arms right now, me stomping my feet as I stand in place, taking out the dishes, taking out the laundry, taking out the garbage, walking the dogs, everything that's not scheduled exercise. That's the way I move, which is why even in this interview, I'm standing with you. Because I stand for a lot of my meetings because it causes me to have more movement. So it ups my NEAT. The third part of our metabolism, the third down, and then I'll get to the fourth, the third is the thermic effect of food, your TEF. And the most thermogenic macronutrient, many people may not be surprised by, is protein. Because protein is going to repair and recover us, and it's on an energy storage system. And it actually takes us, we burn more calories burning, utilizing, breaking down, and absorbing the molecules from protein than we do actually consuming it. So protein and the thermogenic effect of food is the third most important component of your metabolism. So that's about 15 to 20%. No, I'm sorry, 10 to 15%. And then the very last, the smallest part of your metabolism is only 5 to 10% of your metabolism. And it's, guess what? Your thermic effect of exercise. So if you are one of these warriors who wakes up in the morning, goes and pounds out an hour of cardio, and then sits at your desk and does nothing else and does no movement in the day, that's like the worst. I mean, yes, it's better than not doing any exercise, obviously, but it would be better for you to do maybe a 20-minute workout in the morning and then spend a lot of time taking a break during the day, walking the dogs, taking a break, parking your car way away from Target and walking more so you can go into Target, and just having more movement in your day, having a treadmill desk, anything that gives you more bang for your buck. So I work with all my clients on how do I get you strength training so we can build up that RMR? And then second, how do I get you moving more so we increase your NEAT and focus less on this steady state long cardio? And this is coming, by the way, guys, from a woman who's run 25 marathons, and I'm sitting here saying, I would give up that in a heartbeat because strength training is the most important thing. It's the thing I'll never stop doing.
Yeah. A lot of good stuff to unpack in there.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's why we wanted to have you on.
Thank you. The understanding stuff that way. I mean, I show people bod pods, and you saw this when I did this in Vegas. I laugh when people say you can't lose body fat and gain lean muscle tissue at the same time. And I'm like, really? Because I've got hundreds of bod pods to show you that's just not true. So if you focus on strength training and building that lean muscle tissue and eating enough protein and really reducing the carbohydrate consumption so you're not adding on body fat at the same time, I can help you pull body fat off and build muscle exactly at the same time to really change your body composition. But it requires intense strength training, and it requires being intentional about what you put in your mouth.
Those are two important requirements that many people struggle with, hence your successful business.
Yes. I always say I basically, people get so overwhelmed by all of the different nutrition that's out there on the internet. One day you're supposed to eat only meat. The next day you have to be a vegan. The next day it's low carb. The next day it's high carb. The next day it's, okay, let's do this paleo thing. Well, maybe I should be a vegetarian. What about this Mediterranean diet? I mean, no wonder people are confused.
Screw it all. I'm going to be a breatharian.
Exactly. It's so overwhelming. So what I do is I say, here's the thing. You get to decide what you're going to do long term. And I'm going to teach you about how your body actually works so that you can make educated decisions from a place of intentional, conscious choice instead of wandering around the grocery store, grabbing whatever's marketed to you. Again, going back to marketing. I want you to be intentional about everything you do instead of doing all this stuff that's unconscious. I want people to be more conscious.
I just live on vitamin C, reds, and cocaine.
Sounds like a great diet. It's going to have you live really long.
He walks around the grocery store going, ooh, shiny, ooh, shiny.
Right.
I had hair before I started it. But
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I definitely don't lack in energy, though.
Right. I bet that's true.
You and Dr. Gabrielle Lyon are two peas in a pod. She is an absolute superstar. We love what she's doing. Muscle-centric medicine is the coolest label. She is crushing it.
Totally agree. She and I finally met last month in Austin.
Yeah.
And she sent me a message. She's like, I hear I have to meet you. And I was like, oh my God, I have to meet you also. We're so aligned. So we're going to be at this conference together in a couple of weeks, and I can't wait to spend more time with her.
Yeah, she just, I mean, man, she is like hard hitting with research, right? Obviously she's a medical doctor. She always does her homework. All of the recommendations she makes are evidence-based.
And not to mention her husband's a Navy SEAL.
Her husband's a Navy SEAL, that's right.
Yeah, who's back in medical school right now. So he's going to be a doctor as well. So imagine that pair.
Yeah.
Unstoppable.
Man, they just her and she's just like, I don't know when she sleeps because they're parents too. So
I know.
She's like crushing. She has her own podcast now.
I just recently heard this. Yeah, I was interviewed by a friend of mine the other day, and she mentioned Gabrielle has her podcast. I've got to tune into it. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, it's great, and it's like it is. It always comes back to medicine and health and nutrition, and she talks about strength training, obviously, a lot, but she also is like very focused on mindset and the psychology of health. And
yes,
she's one of my favorite people in the health space right now, no doubt.
Yeah, I agree.
She's shooting off like a rocket right now. Like she came out of nowhere. I didn't even know about her until a couple of months ago. So
that's great.
Hey, what are those guys doing here? Whenever I feel like I'm stalling out on my bench press, I know I need a new strength curve.
Whether you're stalling out on the road or stalling out in the gym, you need something with great engineering.
That's right. And
so look for the pendulum. Pendulum.
Not just your average strength machines.
No, they have smooth strength curves,
amazing rigidity.
And did we mention the engineering's fantastic?
That's right. Not to mention, they come in cool colors.
Like red.
And silver. Well, that was kind of weird. What was that all about? Back to the interview.
Now, I unfortunately was not able to attend the last rec, and so I didn't get to hear all your stuff about creatine. So I'd love to talk a little bit about the creatine, or why you chose to use that as a topic, and how you use it as a lever in your own approach to stuff. I've been recommending a lot of the things that you talk about for many years. But I want to hear other people tell me why they think it's important.
Especially because it's so taboo, right? Isn't creatine illegal? It's a performance-enhancing drug. It's synthetic. It's right. Those are all the things people think about it,
right?
Yeah, I hear a lot of things. I've been recommending it to people for probably 25 years at least, and I've never even had anyone have any negative side effects at all. The only thing that I have encountered, which is extremely rare, is I have encountered some very people that are really like low responders. That's like the worst thing that I've had. But I mean, there's never been any diarrhea or cramping or like any kind of weird reaction of any kind. But the worst case scenario was it didn't really have a huge impact. But that is extremely rare.
Were those people, was their musculature, are they very low in muscle?
There were people that were relatively active already, relatively fit, already training, trying to add it in as a, hopefully, to give them another boost,
Yeah.
And from my own experience personally using it, and again, working with people, I've seen some pretty dramatic effects. I mean, on the far side, I mean, I've seen people put on more than 15 pounds in like a few, like a week or so, like
wow.
When they do a loading phase, and they've like purposely like just finished coming off like a hard cut,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like they load it in and do like those big multi doses for a week or 10 days.
Yeah,
seen them just pack on lean mass. Obviously it's not all muscle,
sure,
but hydrating and so forth. And then I've also seen the strength responses be quite dramatic in short periods of time on the high side. But again, like the low side, I've just had some people who didn't feel like it made a big difference, because sometimes it's been so dramatic, it's almost like magic.
So for me, the reason I chose to speak about it is because I knew nothing about creatine up until a little shortly before May of 2021 when I started taking it. So here I become a natural professional bodybuilder in 2018, having never taken creatine. I was one of these people who had no idea what it was certain it was like an anabolic steroid, probably a performance enhancing drugs. Oh no, they're probably going to test me for it, so I don't want to take that. So I didn't take it. And here I was probably competing against women that were full of creatine and I had no idea. So once I started to hear more about it, and I was hearing some buzz about creatine on podcasts and other things, and I started to dive into the research, and I was like, wait, what? This is a short chain amino acid that our body naturally produces. And wait, we already have it in us, but it decreases over the age essentially of 35, and that we would need to eat a pound of red meat per day to meet our actual creatine needs. And
we got that covered.
And that assumes perfect digestion, perfect assimilation of nutrients, which of course no one on the planet has. So when I was reading about that, and then I started to see that there was research coming out about how important it is for cognition, how it can improve moods, how it helps with cardiovascular health, how it helps manage blood sugar, how it helps, reduce triglycerides. I was like, this is like the wonder non-drug, the wonder supplement that I just never had practiced with. So what I chose to do is I was like, okay, you're going to try this. You're going to do a DEXA scan at the beginning of your experiment, and then you're going to do a DEXA scan a few months in. So I got a DEXA scan, started taking creatine, and the dosing that I chose for myself, based on all of my research, is that this whole loading phase is now sort of outdated, that you don't need to do that. And what I chose to do is just do 5 grams a day, split up into 3 doses. So I measured out 5 grams, and it equals about 1.5 teaspoons. So I did a half a teaspoon in the morning, half a teaspoon midday, half a teaspoon in the evening. So I did that every single day, and I took a DEXA in May, and then I took another DEXA in August. And between May and August, changing nothing else, I gained 3 pounds of lean muscle tissue and lost 2% body fat. And that's at the age of 45. So, people always say, oh, you can't gain muscle as you age. I do it all the time. So I laugh and I watch my clients do it all the time. I have clients putting muscle on in their 50s and 60s because they're strength training intensely and focusing on their macros. So for me, the results were dramatic, but it wasn't even so much about the fact that I was improving my body composition so readily. It was how I actually felt. So I noticed probably a week in when I would be in, the last bicep curl where I would normally fail at 9. Now I was getting rep 11 or rep 12. So it really did give me that extra juice. And I just felt like I could push that much harder in my strength training sessions. And of course, that's what makes creatine so important and so valuable. I tell everyone, and I just gave a talk about this the other night, and I touched on creatine for a bit. I said, listen, it's not that creatine sprinkles magic pixie dust on our biceps and makes them grow bigger. Creatine gives you the necessary formula, or it gives you one of the components of the formula to allow your body to make more energy, to allow you to do more reps. You actually don't fail as quickly as you otherwise would. And that non-failure is going to put on the lean muscle tissue. Using creatine and sitting on the couch and binging on Netflix will do nothing for you.
Yeah.
You have to use creatine in the place.
Which is true for steroids as well.
Of course. But for creatine, I think one of the misunderstandings about it, because it was becoming so popular back at the time that so were anabolic steroids, that unfortunately from a societal place, it just got lumped all together as one thing. And people just have had such a misunderstanding about creatine. My parents are in their 70s and I have them on creatine now because we know it's so good for preventing sarcopenia and for all sorts of other age-related disease. And so I told them, I'm like, you guys got to be on it. And back to your point about how there were some people that just didn't take well to it, I will say this. I focus with my clients first on, you have to be drinking a ton of water every day. You have to be taking electrolytes. You have to be prioritizing sleep. You have to be eating a nutrient-dense diet. Creatine isn't going to substitute all of those things.
Yeah.
We have to be doing all the basics first. And then once we're doing the basics, it's possible that with the people you said were non-responders, it's possible they weren't great sleepers, or they didn't prioritize sleep, or they had too much stress, or, we don't know with those particular incidents, but kind of further just to explain the mechanism of action for people who are interested, our body, and you guys know this, but just for your listeners to hear it, our body, the energy currency of our body is called ATP. It's adenosine triphosphate. And so adenosine triphosphate is only stored in a certain amount in our body. We only have so much capacity for ATP. And once we're out of it, then we're out of it and your body has to make more. Well, creatine, our body can store a lot more of. So we can store 5 grams of creatine in every pound of lean muscle tissue that we have. When I found that in the research, I was like, okay, that's remarkable. I'm only taking 5 grams a day. I've got lots of pounds of muscle on this body, but you can store a lot more creatine. So by storing creatine, what happens is, if I'm going to almost run out of ATP, but I really still want to flex my bicep more or do another dip or do another, leg extension, I need to contract my muscle to do it, which requires ATP. So when you're about to run out, creatine in the moment will tag on to adenosine diphosphate. It basically rephosphorylates ATP. It adds a phosphate group from ADP, converts it into ATP, and now here you have more energy, so you can have more energy in your workout. It's essentially putting battery packs on your muscles so that your muscles have more juice to be able to get through the workout. And that's whether you're running, whether you're strength training, whether you're doing jujitsu. I don't care what the exercise is. Creatine is going to help you. It's not just for strength.
Yeah, it's like a backup generator.
Yeah, going back just for a moment to the whole loading thing, my experience is that it's definitely true you don't need to do it.
Yep.
But I've also found that it definitely improves the speediness of noticing the results. Like if you just take a teaspoon a day, it takes a longer time for you to manifest, in my experience. But people that I have go through a loading phase tend to see the changes much more quickly.
And that makes sense. That makes sense. I didn't try the loading phase just because I kept reading that it wasn't necessary. And I was a little worried about what sort of digestive distress it might cause in a loading phase. But I had, good results without it. So that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I take it every day, and have been for years.
Yep, me too.
And what I do, I'm assuming you guys take monohydrate, but I actually mix monohydrate and HCl. And the only reason I do that is because all creatine monohydrate is white, tasteless, odorless, flavorless powder. And the creatine HCl that I found from Concrete, it's just stevia, but it's got a little bit of lemon lime flavor. And so I just like the added flavor.
Yeah, there you go.
So I add a little bit of that on top of it. You don't need to, but I do.
Well, the way I take it, which I haven't found anybody else who seems to do it this way, I literally just throw a giant scoop of it into my mouth and then drink it because, everybody's always stirring and it sinks down, it sticks to the sides, and to me, it's a waste of time. So I just take a giant scoop, throw it in my mouth, swallow it down with whatever I'm drinking at the moment.
That's great.
I don't miss any. I know exactly that every bit's going in.
That's so true. And my friend who I mentioned before, Dr. Jamie Seaman, the OB/GYN, she does that in the morning because she's got to be up at 4 something to get to the gym before she's in clinic. She does that with salt because we use salt as our pre-workout a lot of times. So she says, rather than let it dissolve in water, so I don't have time for it to start working. I got to get it in my system right away. So she shoots, I don't know if it's a fourth a teaspoon or a half a teaspoon of salt before she goes into
with the lime and the tequila too.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah. No, I do the same thing. I take about 2 ounces of water and I put my LMNT, electrolyte packet in there. And then I put my 5 grams of creatine monohydrate and I just gulp it down like a shot.
That's great. Maybe I'll try to do the shot version instead of because I put it all in here in the morning and I drink this on the way and during my first workout, whether I'm strength training or doing some measure of cardio.
Yeah. Well, personally, I try to hydrate immediately upon waking up. So if I do take it's like 1,000 milligrams of sodium in that LMNT packet. And so if I take that and 2 ounces of water, now I'm thirsty and I just gulp down another glass and already I'm like very hydrated to start the day.
Yeah, it's great. I tell my clients they are not allowed coffee until they drink 24 ounces of water. It's the first thing you got to do in the morning.
Nice.
It makes sense. Caffeine is a diuretic. And I think that caffeine and creatine as a tandem are good to talk about because they're both legal, effective, well-researched performance enhancing chemicals, right?
Yeah.
That people, caffeine is a little bit different, right? I don't react super well to caffeine. So I try not to drink it at all. Liam's eyes twitching over here.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm almost 3 weeks off of caffeine, so I'm with you. I'm doing a 3-month no caffeine experiment.
What?
How's that going for you?
Well, the hard part's over. The first few days I always have to nap a ton.
Yeah.
But I'm one of these people that has such high energy and my central nervous system runs like so over sympathetic dominant. And I've got so much pitta and heat and fire. I'm a Leo. My birthday's next week. So it's just, caffeine is like the last thing that I need, right? I always say, if you ever find me strung out on drugs, homeless, it's going to be because I've got shooting up cortisol in my system, not anything else. Like I love cortisol. I love to get up and go. So I'm just trying to balance my central nervous system more and see what happens to my hormonal function and everything else when I don't have caffeine.
Yeah. I'll think about that eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to mention that caffeine can interfere with sleep. And if your sleep is interfered with, then we know that, your ghrelin and leptin levels can be sort of out of whack, which we know that research shows that people who, those two hormones are, out of the balance that we want them in, eat more calories, get less sleep, gain more body fat, lose more muscle.
Cry a lot.
Yeah, well, emotional regulation. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it.
It's so true. It makes a huge difference. So you guys probably read Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep, but I found that to be such a fantastic book.
Yeah.
It was on an interview that I heard with him later. I don't think he talks about this in the book, but I heard him on a podcast interview explain this fun fact about that ghrelin and leptin balance. And it's this. So the reason that we get hungry when we're sleep deprived is, if you think about it, we are, of course, animals in the animal kingdom, and we are the only animal in the animal kingdom that would intentionally skimp on sleep. I always tell my clients, I'm like, you think a bear is going to be like, oh, just a second, I've got to get that PowerPoint presentation done. I can't take my winter nap. Or like a lion isn't going to sleep when it's tired. Of course, all animals sleep when they're tired, unless they're out hunting for food for their family because they need food. So because we are biologically wired in the same way, we are biological animals that believe that our system thinks if we're up when we're supposed to be sleeping, when we're tired, it must be because we're hunting for food. So it's why our ghrelin is actually going to go up and why our leptin is going to go down, because our ghrelin is our hunger hormone, our growling hormone. And so we're not only going to want more food or think we're hungrier, but we're also going to be more likely to reach for carbs. Because if you're out hunting for your family and you need food to sustain you, it's like, oh, there's some berries on that tree, on that bush. There's this banana. I'm going to have that and go find the animal that I need to kill to bring back for my family.
It'd be like if hunter-gatherers just had like a tool belt with like a bag of Lay's potato chips in the holster. Yeah, like
Exactly.
I'm gonna market a little utility belt like that with like little pockets.
Great idea.
Yeah, little pockets. I've got the jerky pocket and the
Yes.
raw nut
There
pocket.
you go.
Yeah.
And the pork rind pocket.
Pork rinds are the best. I tell my clients, a sign of metabolic flexibility is you can go 5 hours or more without eating and not get hangry,
Man, we could probably talk about this stuff for a while, Kristen. I know we're running up against your time here. So let's say somebody's been, they're an extremely busy person and they're really struggling with their weight and getting their workouts in. What's like the first step they should take to get on the road to, living a healthier lifestyle? Like, what would you recommend? What does Energetically Efficient recommend for them?
Great question. Step one is to find someone who you will be accountable to. So this is a trainer or a coach or someone that if you're trying to, here's what I try to get people to understand. If you have been in a life of being either sedentary or got out of your gym routine, or you're not prioritizing your nutrition, or you're not strength training, and you now want to do one or both or all of those things, I want you to accept that you're really asking yourself to create a bunch of new habits, maybe even one new habit. And that creation of a new habit is going to take a little bit of work for a short period of time, but then it just becomes discipline. There are plenty of mornings where I want to hit snooze and not get up and go to my workout either, but it's the discipline that keeps me going because I've created a habit around it. So now it's a habit. So I say, make an appointment with a trainer, make an appointment with a friend at the gym, find a coach who will meet you somewhere, but someone who's going to hold you accountable so that they can help you create these new habits, because you really have to learn how to make these part of your lifestyle to set you up for success. The other sort of just simple tool that I tell everyone from a nutritional standpoint is start every morning with like 24 ounces of water with the juice of 1 lemon and at least 1/4 teaspoon of salt.
Yeah, it's fun. I've been making my own. I used to call it Gatorade. I was a soccer player. I made my own homemade formula for years. And that's pretty much what it was. It like lemon juice, lime juice, tiny bit of like salt, maybe a tiny bit of honey, in a big jug. People were drinking all the fake Powerade and everything. And I was making my own sort of electrolyte stuff. It was delicious.
That's amazing.
And I would always keep it around on the sidelines. Yeah, I used to gulp that stuff down my whole career.
Yeah, Energetically Efficient will have a pre-workout coming out at some point. I've been talking about it forever. I used to say salt was the only pre-workout you needed. But between the salt that I put in, beta-alanine, a little bit of L-citrulline, the creatine, like I want to come out with my own one that's healthy and that has good ingredients that isn't full of garbage.
You eat Dorito dust.
You threw out a potential name earlier that I was going to say we could use for ours, but you called it, you said Magic Pixie Dust. So that's my recommendation for you for your pre-workout name.
I love it.
I actually had one. I actually made my own recovery shake years ago that I sold, and it was called Taku's Voodoo Recovery Shake.
Nice.
I love it.
All the MMA guys used to buy it in tons. So I would literally make it myself. I'd be in my house like measuring this much carbs, this much protein, had labels, bagging it up. I was rolling and making my own supplements.
That's amazing. I love it.
So, Kristen, where can people find you on the interweb? Where is the best place to connect with you?
So I launched a brand new website recently. So that's energeticallyefficient.com. And that has links to all of my social media. So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram. I have a page on Facebook. I'm not very active on it. And I also have a Twitter. I'm trying to use more, but I'm not very active on it. So Instagram is probably the one I use the most, simply because that's the social media that I tend to like the most. But through my website at Energetically Efficient, you can even book a call if you're interested in services. So there's a 20-minute call. You can learn about my courses and my coaching. And the other thing that I offer, and I would just put this out there, I don't know when you're going to release this podcast, but my business partner who I have in a retreat business that we have, we're hosting a retreat in Utah in September and in Tulum in November, both of 2022. And so there's information about those retreat experiences where I provide all the nutritional therapy, and my business partner, who's also my meditation coach, provides deep guided meditations and group coaching healing the individuals that come on these experiences. So those are pretty cool. And people can apply through the website.
Yeah, I know we'll have to have you back again sometime so we can talk about meditation and mindset stuff. But I know that you originally got the idea for Energetically Efficient during a meditation session. I've been a meditator for 6 years now. I know you've been meditating for a long time. Liam's dabbled in mindfulness and Zen Buddhism and all kinds of stuff.
I don't have to work at it. I'm always in the moment.
Liam also is I don't know if you're familiar with the Peaceful War, Way of the Peaceful Warrior, but Dan Millman. Dan Millman is the author, and he's also been a guest on our podcast. So we're I think that health and mindfulness really go hand in hand. My nutrition certification through Precision Nutrition, they talk about mindfulness all throughout their courses. So really, really important stuff.
Yeah, and that comes back to that intention and that consciousness, and that's really what, with Vanessa and I hosting these retreats, it's really what we desire is to create an experience for people, have experiential learning where they're engaged in present moment time in community for an entire 5 or 6 days, and they're pretty powerful experiences.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. Well, Kristen, thank you so much for joining us today on the TNT Strength Podcast. We wish you the best and in your new business pursuit. Congratulations on starting that up, and we're looking forward to seeing you at future conferences.
Same. Thanks to you guys for having me.
Let us know if you want some help designing the Magic Pixie Dust label.
Will do. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciated the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Cheers.
Boom, baby!
What's up, people? Thank you so much for listening to this episode of
Truth Not Trends.
That's right here at TNT Strength Headquarters, Truth Not Trends.
Please, if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, rate, and review us on whatever platform you're listening to us on. And don't forget to share with a friend.
You can find us on the web at tntstrength.com.
That's right, TNT Strength now coming to you in person at 5255 College Avenue in Oakland, California. You can call the studio 510-768-5421. You can also text us at 855-796-9905.
Or shoot us an email at contact@tntstrength.com. And whatever you do, stay off of that stupid blue bubbly boasting.
No boast you.
Living on red, vitamin C and cocaine. All a friend can say is ain't it a shame?
Mixed and edited by Desmond McNeese for We Mixed It, LLC. Go to whatsoundsawesome.com.